Alright folks, remember where we left off about a month or so ago? Tyler's 84 Chevy Caprice. We said that it needed new brakes on it. Well, now we finally got all the parts that we need. And it turns out that the ground sound happened to be a bad bearing on it. That's what the whole problem was on the car. It was a bad bearing. So, with that, we've gotten brand new bearings. We're busy packing them with grease. And the old ones were making a pretty awful growling sound. Here's one of them. This is the outer bearing that I have over here. Now, it wasn't too bad, the outer one, but the inner one was all black and then it had some brindling inside the rotor, which we'll show you afterwards. But that was the whole case of this problem and things. So we were able to get new rotors, pads. We're going to put on a complete new set of pads, a nice new set of semi-metallic pads to take care of the whole mess. Have a new caliper. We're putting a new caliper onto the other side as well too, just to make sure that his brakes are going to be in proper serviceable condition. Well, we'll take it from there. We got the new rotor on, people, after packing the bearings, doing that squishy thing. I'll show you on the other side when we do that, the squishy part of packing the bearing, but I'm sure it's been shown 1,000 times or more on YouTube already, my gosh, awful grinding sound. It's gone as silent and smooth now. We're going to get it tightened up and adjusted, and we'll take it from there. Alright, what are we looking at, people? We got the right side of the car done now. We're just starting on our left side. Really, Sunday mornings, grease, all this crap. Ugh. Somebody's got to do it though. It's all part of the fun with working on old cars. And of course my vice grips aren't here with me right now, which are actually they're right over here. Gonna take off our... I'm just gonna get the bearings off, and then we'll work on getting our caliper off. Not in any necessarily crazy order or something like that. Whatever the mood strikes. These cotter pins are pretty sorry looking, actually. Ugh. Wow, I'm seeing a lot of yuck things this morning, it seems. Boink! There we go. Out! Out with the old. That'll be on with the new. Spin this off over here, get into the cap. Now this side wasn't making any noise or anything like that. This bearing was okay, but we're still changing them all just to be on the safe side of the deal with all this. Boink, boink, boink. You can basically see the rotor's got all sorts of pits on it and everything over there. And the other rotor will show you afterwards what it looked like on the inside. It's just time to change it. They got to go. Make it safe for Tyler. He needs the car to get back and forth to working safely, so let's try to make things safe. Alright, went pretty far on that. Enough over there. Let's leave that alone for that, because I don't want to get these gloves greasy. I'll put on my rubber gloves for that, but we're just going to take off the caliper over here, and we'll be back in a few minutes when we get everything on. Now we're in for one of the fun parts of the job. Okay, our new disc brake rotors came with the inner races for the bearings, so we're fine. So we'll have to start pressing in new races, so there we go. Fun part. Squish, 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 squash. Grease in the new grease. Got to make sure lots of grease is packed into your bearings and around. Squeeze it through. Wash. Have to be lubricated properly, because you don't want them running dry of grease ever, these things. Squeeze it in, work it in. In the palm of your hands. Plop. Down. Squish. And it starts to squish right through the edges of the bearings, so you can see that through the rollers. Doesn't take much. You have to play with it for a half an hour. You get a lot of grease in there. Pretty much from the onset. There you go. Squish right through. Done for all intents and purposes. And grease just plopped in there around. Everybody does. Never figured that one out. Why? Because once it gets thrown out, the grease gets thrown out. But it always throws grease in there, so I'm throwing grease in there too. It works. Use brake clean afterwards to scrupulously clean off any trace of grease that's left on anything afterwards, but there we go. And now for a very vital part, our seal. Now on occasion I've forgotten to put those things back on, and I realized afterwards, so we got to take it all apart again. Alright, off with the gloves. And I get the hammer all there. Ah, the heck with it, I'll just with the rag off. We have lots of other rags to use, so. It's rags. Don't make the hammer too slippery and too greasy. We'll tap on the new seal, and we'll flip it over, and we'll pack the front bearing and get that on. Gotta keep them safe, people. Now where's my hammer? I have to do some of that. There we go. Looking like a good old-fashioned wood claw hammer. Let the seal feel its way in. That way we don't have any danger of warping them out or damaging them. There we go. Tap, 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 tap. There you go, one rear seal on. Get some around the lip, just make sure the lip's got lots of grease. Boink. And that is one pack bearing. Now we're going to flip her over. We'll do our front side. Like I said, we're going to clean up the rotors and of course Tyler's artwork over here with the new bearing. Again, you see we have a full assembly with the inner race, but we don't need the inner race, so we're going to save that because there already is an inner race pressed into the new disc brake rotor. Always keep those. And we'll do the whole packing procedure again. Squeeze it in, squeeze it in, squeeze it in. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Squash, squash, squash. Different opinions on different sorts of bearing lubricants to use. Some people like to use long fiber grease or just ordinary grease. I've used both of them. I've never had a bearing give a problem because, you know, again, it's how you set it up and how you do the job initially, how much grease you get in there and what you do. Spin it around to make sure that you get into all the spots. Pretty much done. See it gets squishing out everywhere there. I can see right from the edges when I squeeze it in. So we are pretty much packed on that one too. Okay, again, dob a bunch of grease into there like everybody else does. Dub, dub, dub. Slap, slap, slap. Slap, slap, slap. There you go. Plop it on. There we go. Pretty much done on that. With the excess grease. And what I will have, I'm finished with the gloves, so I will take over the camera. I'll just take off my gloves and I'll slide the rotor on. I'm going to yank off these old gloves. Yeah, getting grease all over me regardless, doesn't matter. There we go. You don't want to get too much grease all over everything. And so would you mind passing me the brake cleaner, please, really quick? Thanks. So what I'll do is I'll clean up the backside really quick. I clean up all sorts of traces of the material. Where's my piece of paper towel that I had? There we go. Right here, the inside of it. Just wipe this crap off of it. How the dirt you pull off of there, it's amazing. Now I can plop this thing onto the front. Seal's on, everything is ready to go. We basically have it installed. I'll put the adjuster nut on and a new cotter pin, and we'll take it from there. We'll see you in a few minutes. All right, what we're doing is we're doing a second quick cleanup of the outside surface of the rotor. Amazing the dirt you get off. Just a touch of paint left on the inside that the pads will barely touch. I'm not worried, they'll get burned off very quickly. You see all the dirt that you get off there regardless. On supposedly clean looking parts. Pretty much so. Now, we'll be back in a little bit because we're going to change the caliper out over. We'll get the new caliper on and then we'll be back in a few. Alright, we're pretty much the buttoning up stages of the whole operation. We got the new pads on. Shims as well too to keep any squeaking or anything like that happening. It's a semi-metallic compound, not too aggressive, not too rough. They certainly meet Tyler's requirements for the car. He's very easy on his brakes to start with. And we also crimped on this pad over here because people sometimes forget to crimp these pads and they'll just rattle around, so you have to squeeze these little tabs down on either end so that doesn't rattle around in the caliper. Don't squash them down, just enough so it just fits snugly against the caliper and away you go. So we have new hardware, anti-rattle clips in there as well too, so working that off. We've cleaned off the surface of the road. I'll give it one more quick cleaning just to make sure, and then we'll be ready just to bleed out this brake, bleed it out by gravity, then a little bit of pressure. We'll be ready to take the 84 Caprice for a test drive, and Tyler will have some good safe brakes on the car and also some nice new bearings. So there you go, people. Simple Sunday morning brake job. For money, anything can be fixed, believe me. We'll see you soon on a test drive. On the car, so we're looking for a nice quiet section of roadway without any cars. So we can do what's called the brake burnishing. There's no cars behind us. So what we want to do is we're going to go up to about 45 kilometers an hour, 50 kilometers, or 30 miles an hour, and then lightly to moderately push on the brakes. Speed up again. Again to the same speed. Moderately put on the brakes. That's called burnishing in your brake pads. You want to cook the resins and things out of them. That way you can prevent squeaks and things like that from happening. And as you can see, we barely have to touch the pedal on this car to have the brakes work very nice. The bearing noise is gone. All the funny noises are gone. So the owner of the car, Tyler, is very, very happy. We'll put it into a side road now so that he can try his own ride now and see the way the car feels. Whee! All right. The ride will now be yours, my friend. And we can see now how the brakes are starting to burnish and very, very nice. Nothing is smelling bad. We don't have any crazy odors or anything like that. They're working fine. There's no pulling, no nothing. You can see where the heats are starting to rub on them a little bit. Nothing gouging, nothing's bluing, which means that the brakes are working just fine. I'll touch the calipers, obviously, but not the rotors. It might be too warm to touch, but barely even warm to the touch, so we know things are working just fine. So away we go.